Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to our scripture reflection every day, Monday to Friday, for our parishioners and friends of St. Joseph and St. Anne parishes here in Kitchener. Reflection today is perhaps a little bit different, based on the scripture, of course, but on my experience and the experience, I think, of many people, especially in these last, 8 months of this pandemic. Many people I have met, I've noticed that a lot of people really are feeling a little distant from God. It's hard to admit, and many of us try to couch it in different words, saying things like, "Well, I do watch TV online, on the television, even twice a day sometimes. I still am praying. I still am a spiritual person." But they're also quick to add, "But it's not the same," though often we can't put our finger on it. Our faith is being tried, and so why is there this feeling that something in us, in our relationship with God, is missing? Well, I think it's because one of the most important aspects or ways we experience God is in our relationships with one another. That's largely missing as we rightly try to protect one another from this COVID virus by remaining physically distant and often sometimes not even coming to church, of course. And so the fact is, we need each other, we impact, we affect one another. And so many holy places in these days, so many holy relationships that we used to have in our daily lives are not as accessible as they used to be, as we knew them. And so this significance, I think, needs to be a little bit reflected on in our own daily lives. How do we feel because we are not able to get out and to be with our families and our friends? Today we are celebrating the martyrs, the thousands, I believe, martyrs of Vietnam in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. They're our companions in the faith, and they were persecuted for their faith at a time in Vietnam when the Catholic faith was not accepted. Okay, so hundreds also found, though, a way to practice their faith, a way to share their faith, and to grow in faithfulness to God despite being threatened and persecuted. And that's something important to remember. Their faith was stronger than their fear. So the faith grew in successive generations. To the point where at St. Anne's Church today, we are proud to have a Vietnamese faith community sharing our church and sharing the very same faith that binds us all together. Then we have in the gospel, we have Jesus warning us against deception and fear, talking about the end of time, of course, but it's talking about all time and our time in particular. There's much in the world, even today, that causes fear. But this is exactly where Jesus comes to meet us. He asks us not to be afraid, but to live our faith. Now, that's certainly easier said than done. And when we look at the lives of St. Andrew Dung Lac and the Vietnamese martyrs, I think we can see that in the midst of it all, we must have and we can have a good, healthy dose of hope, that we too can live in faith rather than in fear. In faith that God still comes to meet us each and every day of our lives where we are, and even in these days. Even if we have to look for new ways with fresh eyes and hearts, new ways in which to find God. And that's our prayer, that the Spirit of God guide us each and every day of our lives, that we may enter more deeply into a relationship with our God, and therefore in the best ways possible, even with one another, if nothing else, by being able to pray for one another. Let's do that today. Thanks, and may God bless you all.